podcast is brought to you by Guiding Growing Minds, a social enterprise that aims to give all children the best opportunity to reach their potential and succeed in living rich and meaningful lives.
All right, Dr. Billy, that has been episode 106, The Fifth Element and the Future. What are people going to learn this week?
Well, how amazing a movie it is. They will also learn about some of the weaknesses we have in terms of our own internal mental health, but also the kids that we support in anxiety around the future, and then some practical applications of the theory and the evidence about how we can address and support that.
And you give a really practical set of steps, which I won't reveal here, so make sure people get through it and get all of the context around it. And it's been fantastic because we've been able to do this in front of a live audience for the first time. Awesome.
Lots of future stage coming.
Yeah, enjoy the episode, guys.
Hi, I'm Billy, a developmental paediatrician.
And I'm Nick, a developing parent.
We're going to use scenes from iconic movies to talk about how we best support our kids.
This is Pop Culture Parenting.
Hey, don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
I don't want to see you again for the rest of my whole life. I don't want to see anybody else either.
Who is your daddy, and what does he do?
Just use your best judgment. We trust you.
How you going?
Good. Sometimes I wonder if I've just, the podcast exists to have protected time with you and I've dragged all these other people along.
Rare.
Yeah, it's amazing. We've done this a lot and pretended that there were people doing tech for us and a part of it, but yeah, it's amazing to have people here. So yeah, we're gonna talk about a bunch of stuff. We're gonna, if it's okay with everyone, we're gonna actually use you towards the end and to make our intro clip, and then we're gonna do a really tight Q&A, and then we're gonna get to meet you in person, which is probably the bit I'm looking forward to the most.
Yep, lots of fun down in the bar afterwards, I think, is the order of the day.
But it's nice to be back in a venue. We were in November in the Arts Centre, and I remember you saying that you were rolling through there with your boss at work, and you were like, when was the last time you were here? She was like, and you were like, oh, I was here a week ago on stage.
Yeah, I
performing.
know. I think so. They were having a good laugh. I was having a good laugh at her expense. Go, oh, it's good to be back in the precinct. And she was like, you're such carry on. So
beautiful.
Here we go.
And you've also, people who listen to the pod will know that you've just been away.
Yeah, I've just come back from New Zealand, full of Griswolds and Winslows, which I'm sure we'll get to in a moment. But yeah, travelling overseas for the first time, or actually going anywhere on a plane with two small children. So I'm still trying to process it. And I reckon by episode 200 I might have finished processing it, and we're 100 in now. It was pretty hectic stuff.
You're rushing overseas again?
No, probably not rushing overseas again, but I'll cover it off in the Griswold and Winslow. Is there anything we need to get through first?
Yeah, very quickly. Thank you for everyone who's a part of the Patreon community. You guys are amazing and you're making this actually sustainable. For the amazing team that are here, you might get to meet some of the Guiding Growing Minds team. Newest member, Kish, is somewhere. He's 3 weeks old, so welcome Kish to the world. And yeah, and also we are going to do a tour. So we're going to poll the Instagram audience. If you're not part of that, but you're interested in tour dates and stuff like that, then please jump over there, because we're going to ask, because we just don't know where people are that want to come. Like some places we go, I was driving to the pool last night and I was had the window down and I was like talking to Justine Annalise and had a pretty rough week, so I was like blowing up a bit and just being like, man, I'm over this. And then the person in the car, right out the front of your joint actually, person in the car winds down her window and was like, Billy! And she's like, I'm listening to you right now.
Yeah.
I was like, so shout out to that person, because that really pepped me up. So
yeah, I've got to say, actually, I didn't tell you this, but we do have there's a couple of fans in New Zealand that I met. That was pretty funny.
No,
yeah.
I didn't know that.
Probably
Amazing.
not my best moment. I was white-knuckling driving to a ferry, which I arrived at 6 minutes before I needed to get there with 3 generations of my wife's family in the car. I was pretty flustered when I got there, and I sort of bowled up to this car. I was like, am I in the right place? And they're like, yeah. are you Nick on that podcast? I was like, oh, yes, just a smooth family holiday I'm on right now, yeah. So it was
Beautiful.
It was pretty funny, but yeah.
Mate, most people who say me think I'm Nick as well.
Yeah,
So-
I know. Yeah, just to be clear, Billy might, if you haven't listened to the podcast before, Billy is the actual doctor. He sometimes he gave
Mate,
me an
you're a
honorary
doctor now
doctor,
too.
and I'm not actually a doctor or close to a doctor. I haven't studied anything for that long in my life. So, yeah, no, don't take too much advice from me. But I've got examples of things. That's about the extent of it.
Mate, I've learnt more from you than you've learnt from me,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Rubbish.
Speaking of, should we do...
Yeah, let's get into it.
We'll do Griswold first.
Let's do Griswold
Could
first.
we, this is the first time we actually cut someone to help.
Cut
We
someone.
pretended for 104 episodes.
Yeah.
Could we please have the Griswold clip?
Hey, don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
So this is like our down moment or down parenting moment. So I'm not sure. Do you want to go first this week?
Yeah, so I'm happy to go first because I think there's a bit of humour in it, and it's more to do with how chaotic my lifestyle is. Like, we had a third bub coming. I think I said this on the pod, and people are like, "How are you going to do that? You do so much." And I'm like, the kids are there. Kids aren't even the top 10 difficult things about my life. But anyway, so I've been doing a lot of talks, and I haven't told you this story. I was doing a talk, and I ran from clinic, and it was rural Victoria, and dashed to clinic, and I was like, God, I've got to get out of clothes into jeans and a green t-shirt, no surprise. But I was like parked down a side street and got into just my jocks, which just happened to be like bright pink. And I'm in this my famous car we drove here, the 20-year-old Subaru. I'm in this car, I still hadn't cleaned it, it looked horrible. And as I get literally all my clothes off and I'm just in my jocks in the car awkwardly, the lollipop man comes over and looks in at me. I'm like, there's nothing I can do. I was just like, hey mate.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, I felt so sorry for him. I apologised to the community and said, if anyone knows him, please say sorry. The talk I did. And do you know what it made me think? Nearly 20 years ago, I was in...
Make you think you shouldn't
No,
get changed
that's not the
near
first
a-
time. No, that's not the first time I've had a
yeah.
costume era where I was nearly 20 years ago. I was in Cambridge, in the UK, and I was doing a talk at Addenbrooke's Hospital. And it was like, probably to no one's surprised I don't really fit in Cambridge crowd. But everyone rides bikes there. I don't know if anyone's been to Cambridge, but everyone rides bikes. And I was running just on time.
Yeah.
And just as I pulled into the bike lock bit, I caught my pants,
Yeah.
my work pants seam on the gears, split the whole thing to my groin. And I did a talk, I'm not kidding, in Cambridge about neurology in 2009 with my inner seam stapled together. So that's
Things
how
have
long
improved.
I've been back. Well, yeah, have they?
Yeah, it's not as crazy now.
I've just gotten better at it.
Okay.
So yeah, what's yours?
Well, so like I said, I've just been on this trip overseas, and it's kind of my big idea. So I have to own it. I'm not sure if people have travelled overseas. I've been on a plane with kids before. Like, there's all that stuff that I sort of stuffed up along the way, like no kids' meals, so they lived on bread rolls, going to and forth from New Zealand. Like, there was no other food, so I wouldn't eat anything else. So that was sort of like the typical bad stuff. But I think I've been reflecting upon it the last couple of days. I only got back like Thursday night, and it was really cool, and I really wanted to do it because I'd never been on an overseas trip. I know it's New Zealand, but it's close. It's not like going to Europe.
Yeah.
But I had this like wild sort of expectations of like what I would do and how much the kids would, just like want to be bathed in culture of the country they're in. And for 72 hours, I really tried to drive that. And all the expert advice of 3 years sitting here next to you, I kind of introduced a ton of pressure into every situation along the way. And it just sort of got to me on day 4, and it was actually my mother-in-law, who I think might be here. My partner's not here; she's at home parenting while I'm here. So, it just sort of, she just did this circuit breaker one morning because I was like, "Get up, to go down the pool, got to be at the buffet, got to like do these things," and the kids are like, "I just want to watch TV in a king-size bed. I've never done that in a hotel," and I'm like, "Oh yeah," but. On day 4, I came out and the kids were watching TV at like 7:10, and I was like,
Just in the morning.
In the morning, yeah. Oh, they're always watching at night, 7:10. No. And I came out and they just, I sort of walked out to be like, all right, let's get going. And I just sort of checked myself slightly and was like, I've been introducing all this pressure and no one's had a great time. That's been a bit on me. It's been fun, but, not great. And I just sort of just went, oh, okay, this is what it is. And I sort of went back to bed and then all came out an hour later. And they watched a bit of TV and everyone was pretty relaxed. And then we sort of chatted to them. We're like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go? We're in a wine region. We're averaging a few wineries a day, but they have playgrounds and stuff, so it was fun.
It's supporting the local economy, mate.
So we made sure then that we went, one had a playground, and we given a device at one, and we given one with no devices or playground if there wasn't one. And it kind of just alleviated the pressure. So we started setting them up a little bit to like, hey, this is what we're going to do today. This is what we're going to do next. But it wasn't, if Grandma hadn't come out and said, no, they're just going to watch TV for an hour, I probably would have just kept the foot to the floor and made everyone a little bit, not miserable, but it just wasn't great. And so just, it wasn't my finest. I was just white knuckling the whole first bit. But anyway, that's...
Well, mate, I love seeing the photos of you. You look so relaxed.
Yeah. Must have been day 4.
De-aged you, I think. The device stuff is funny, isn't it? Like, I was at a talk recently this week and they really wanted me to talk about it. And I was like, one thing I find hard, it's like the generation that raised us are often like, oh, these parents just use iPads. And I'm like, if you guys had iPads, you would have used them too.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
It's just because the tech wasn't there. It's not because you're better parents.
Yeah, exactly.
So, anyway. Shall we go to some victories?
There's victories, yeah.
Victories?
I do have a victory, yeah.
Okay, can we please play the great Carl Winslow?
I don't object to fun. I love fun. In fact, I'm the grand funk master of fun.
So this is when something's good happened that's resulted potentially from some of our parenting.
Yeah, and we do, every bit of the podcast is intentional. Like we do the Griswolds because there's so much out in social media that's like I get up in the morning and I have a fruit smoothie and I do yoga with my toddler and it just makes you feel bad about it. So we should talk genuinely and openly more about the struggles, but we should also celebrate the victories. And the Carl Winslow is the, iconic kind of dad that enjoys being a dad and leans into being a dad. And so, do you want to go first?
Happy to go first. I just, so we just, again, got back late Thursday, got to school on Friday morning with my kid, my oldest kid, who's in grade 1, so she's already done a year of school, obviously. We turned up and it's Harmony Day, and so she's not in casual, so we quickly go home and get her dressed in casuals and bring her back to Harmony Day, so that it gets better. So then we come in and on Harmony Day at the school, there's like disco and a treasure hunt and all these things. And last year was a bit rough. So it's always, I think it must be term 1 every year. Last year was a bit rough. My daughter went along and she does tap and she does ballet and she performs a couple of times a year. And so she loves to dance. And last year, I think the stage was just too big. So they're going to these mini discos and I think she had a bit of a moment and it just went badly for her, and she came home a bit upset and left the whole thing, and I felt really terrible about it all, and just was like, how the hell does that happen? She loves performing, but the stage is too big, like year 6s and year 5s and all this jazz. And she went back this year, and she goes, she didn't tear up the dance floor, but she goes, no, I got out on the dance floor this year and I had a really good time. And I was like, yes, good, that's a step. And I track little things with her because just they're the things that, she feels better about herself, and it's just nice to get that after last year. So it's like those things watching improvement. You're like, yes, that's what I want to see.
Mate.
So it was cool.
You worked really hard on supporting her with that stuff.
Yeah. It just, it's tricky. Some of the school stuff's been way tricky, and anyone that's listened to the episode, I've been crapping on about it for over a year now. I won't try and stop, but school's way trickier than I thought it was.
Yeah.
Just is.
Yeah, totally. You taught me that.
Yeah. How'd you?
Yeah, I've got a good one. It's going to be really hard to say without sounding like I'm so full of myself.
Oh, yeah?
I've been working with my therapist on my inner critic. So it was amazing, actually. He was like, what do you feel like saying? We're doing the chair work. And he's like, what do you feel like saying to your inner critic? And
so this is in a therapy
Yeah,
session.
this is 2 days ago.
Gotcha.
And he was just like, and I just felt a bit uncomfortable. And then he's like, this is what I want to say to it. And he got really worked up, talking to my inner critic, and it was really powerful. I got really emotional in it and everything.
So they had a go at your inner critic?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I just need to carry that guy around with me every day, every minute. But because the idea is a lot of stuff from my childhood is kind of protective and all that stuff.
Yep.
But it's still rearing its head in ways that aren't helpful. Anyway, the reason I'm saying that is because this is going to sound egotistical, but I haven't told you this, but I recently found out that the book was the #1 parenting book in Australia
last year
because of these people. It's also, which is even more amazing, it's also been nominated. I always forget the acronym, but the APIA or the ABIA, it's one of those, is the is a book award, and it's
Really?
been nominated for the non-fiction book of the year.
Where?
Which
Where's
is
the
phenomenal
awards?
in Australia. They're in Melbourne, and I said to the publishers, because they're all super pumped about it, I'm like, "Oh, is this a big thing? Is this something I should come to? Because I at the moment can't make it." And they're like, "It's the Oscars for books," and I was like, "Wow,
Well, hold on.
I've got no chance in hell. The other
I
books are
had
amazing."
nothing to do with the writing of the book at all, or anything to do. It's got nothing to do with the podcast. But do you need someone to go in your stead?
Well, mate, I think you were signing the book at the live show last year.
I did. People did ask me, they were like, "Can I get an autograph in the book?" I was like, "I didn't write this, and I have nothing to do with it." And I did. But yeah, if you need someone to go as your in your stead, I can.
Beautiful, thanks,
make it
mate.
happen.
You do. How long will your acceptance speech be?
Oh, well,
I'll start
how long
playing
do I get out of the
music.
house? I'll just go out. It doesn't start till 7. I think I need to go at 4.
We're going to do more live Q&As for Patreon people. And I said, when are you going to do it? And I was like, normally, like 7 p.m. when people put kids to bed. And he's like, I reckon you should do it earlier because you were trying to get out of...
Don't throw me under the put-down bus, all right? I'm just trying to...
So those are my two, but it's great.
Brilliant. What are we going to do here today, Billy? So what's the topic?
So the topic is, this is really interesting. ACME reached out and said, hey, we'd love to host you guys talking about a current exhibition we've got on. I don't know if people have seen it, but it's a really amazing exhibition about the future. And I was thinking about it a lot, and they've been so amazing, the tech team here, that we're so glad we said yes. But the future is a really interesting concept, as from a mental health perspective, from in terms of severe medical illness, mental health, medical illness, and also just conceptually about how we actually help our kids. We'll talk about a certain element of it, but also more broadly as well. But and then they said, look, there's 200 movies or whatever that have been that were part of the exhibition. You pick one of them and do a scene, and a lot of it was stuff we've done, like Terminator, Blade Runner, all that kind of stuff. The reason I chose Fifth Element is because I love it. Does anyone else know the movie? Like the movie? It's beautiful. Yeah, I love the Fifth Element. I'm also I paused it when I was watching with Annalise when. Mila Djokovic comes into the scene, and I'm like, God, I have to be her for the Photoshop, don't I?
The red hair.
It's really funny. They've spoken to her about it because obviously, it's quite revealing, the thermal bandage outfit, and it's iconic. We'll talk about it. But yeah, she said that if ever in my career I was going to do that, I want to do it when I was in the best shape of my life at 19. She was 19, so. But the point is that
she was 19.
Yeah, she's 19 when. 19. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And so it's this amazing movie. You probably know a lot of the history of it, but this guy, Luc Besson, he grew up with two parents. He wrote and directed it. He wrote it as a teenager, and he grew up with two parents that were scuba divers. And they were travel all around the world and stuff, and all this stuff. And then the interesting thing is he had an injury and he couldn't follow that path. He couldn't dive. And so what he did, which is an interesting concept, as a teenager, he wrote down all the things that he couldn't do anymore because of what had happened. And then he wrote down all the things he could do. And one of them was make movies. And so he went around to everyone locally that he knew in the industry and said, can I just come watch you on set?
What?
And he started making small movies. And he wrote... obviously Leon the Professional, but was one of his movies as well.
He wrote...
Yeah. But the Fifth Element was one that he wrote. And it's really interesting for me. I think one of the beautiful things about it that ties in with the exhibition here is it's not this dystopian future. If you think about so much movie and culture that we grew up with, was, the machines take over and everyone's battling cyborgs, or we've had to leave the world because of pollution and all of that stuff. But, and even when you think about it, how, a lot of, movies from the future and TV shows from the future, everyone wears, the same uniform. They've all agreed. It's a silver tracksuit with a red stripe down here, and that's, because they've advanced. So the beautiful thing about this movie, it's 23rd century, and the fashion is phenomenal.
Yep.
There's beautiful neurodiversity through it, because it's even this beautiful thing, I've been banging on too much about beautiful boys and toxic masculinity, so I'll try to keep out of that space. But I don't know, do you know much of the fashion history of the movie?
No.
No,
I don't.
So it's all...
because it's a French director,
I always mispronounce everything, but it's Jean-Paul Gaultier.
Jean-Paul Gaultier, yeah.
Yeah, so he did all of
from
it.
the 80s.
How wild's this? The Chris Tucker role was going to be Prince. But he saw the outfits and he's like, they're too wild. Too wild for Prince.
Wow.
So yeah, he walked away from it. And Tucker came in. I love Tucker. Like Friday was just the, you ain't got no job. Like Tucker's like a, really big part of my childhood. But this movie shows us a future that is bright. It's really interesting. You have to know it to catch it, I think. But there's scenes that show you a bit of what's happened environmentally in the movie. Do you know how they're up high? Do you know why that is? Do you know why the living quarters are all really high and the cars are all flying?
No.
It's not because they've built up really. It's because there's a 3-second shot that artists that work in movie talk about this phenomenon of the rocket taking off.
Yes.
And you see Manhattan and all the water's gone.
Yeah. And it took a couple of years to do that shot or paint that picture or something.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a single thing.
Every
It's the only
year.
reason they did it. And like Bassem said, the story is that they've sent all of the water off Earth to terraform other planets, but we're never going to explain it in the movie. No one will ever know it. When you also see them check in to go on the spaceship, there's rubbish everywhere.
Yeah.
And she apologises for
says,
it.
"Yeah, sorry."
But that's it. So that we still see a little bit of that, but it's not about how we've failed. It's kind of how we've come together.
Okay.
And that's what I really love about it. There's some other kind of really wild things about it. Like I think that the only reason that Bruce Willis is in it is because Luc Besson was having a meal with Demi Moore and he rocked up. And he pitched it and he said, yeah, cool, I'll help you. And that's why it got made. He couldn't get it made. But Bruce Willis, have you heard that famous story about Bruce Willis in like Die Hard 4 where he was arguing with the producer about like some part of the movie and they was going to go against him and he said, who's your second choice to play John McClane? Because he's like, I think I'm going to win this one. But there's this, and there's a really interesting part of Fifth Element as well about like, which it's not perfect, it's from 97, but that this, in one way it's a little bit like Pretty Woman where the protagonist, Bruce Willis or Richard Gere, looks like he's got it all together, but he actually doesn't, and the female does. So there's that beautiful bit of that. But obviously there's a bigger like sexualized component. There's a consent issue in it. Like I don't know if you remember that bit where he forces a kiss on her, like when she's asleep.
She pulls a gun on him.
Yeah, and she pulls a gun on him, and he's like, I shouldn't have done that. And it's like we're meant to be like, great, isn't he so great? He's like reflecting on it. You know what I mean? And so, but he was really interesting as like this guy. So I really love The Fifth Element. I think it's a beautiful movie. And you think it didn't do that well. It's become a bit like Fight Club. It's become a cult classic afterwards. I think it was the 7th or 8th biggest movie that year because it was like Men in Black and all that stuff was around the same time. But I just think it's really cool. And it also, because it's French cinema, it was the highest grossing French film until The Intouchables in like 2011 or something.
Yeah.
So, and it changes genres so much. It's like action and it's comedy and it's sci-fi and it just moves around. And it also has Gary Oldman, who's amazing. Like he was just off the leash in that, and a few other people. True Romance, I'd love to do it. I don't know if the PCP crowd loves that movie as much, but it's
a bit hectic.
Yeah, it's very hectic. But yeah, so I think it's a nice movie for us to transition into, and then we'll come back to some components of it.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about the future now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Let's
reckon
talk
so.
about the future.
So
How are we time-wise?
Looking at time. Yeah, I think we're right. When is this about talking to our kids about the future or about their future? Like what are we talking about?
It is. So when we think about dysfunctional thinking, in kids and especially teenagers and adults, there's often 3 components to dysfunctional thinking. This is all my fault. It affects every relationship in my life. And it will always be this way.
Yep.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
So one part of like often therapeutic approaches, but you don't have to be in clinical range mental illness, is how can we think differently about those 3 components?
Can you do them again? What were the 3 of them again?
So this is all my fault.
Yep.
This impacts every relationship I have, and it'll always be this way.
Okay.
And if you don't have to be unfair in front of an audience to ask you this, but I've been in that space.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, this is never going to change.
Yeah.
And it's awful.
Is this anxiety? Like this, it just makes you anxious. Like this is kind of.
You're right.
Anxiety.
It's a component of anxiety. If we think about anxiety as future looking.
Yeah, future looking. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's depression's?
Well, depression's obviously often reflecting back on
okay.
things like that. And so a lot of the time what we see in the kids is like an angry or agitated kid. In kids, teenagers and the elderly, often anxiety and depression and things like that don't look like I'm really flat and sad or I'm really scared all the time. We're agitated. And that's my thing. when I'm struggling, I get agitated. I
Yep.
get agitated by a lot of things, and we'll talk in a minute about some of the things that I get agitated that are relevant to the fifth element, the concept.
Dysregulation is different to like being in an anxious state, or is it one and the same? Like,
It's a really good point. So you can be like still logically thinking and be agitated, or you can be dysregulated and not actually have any access to your higher order functioning stuff.
right.
So if we think about like
Tantrum.
like logic, you can't go into a kid who's really dysregulated and talk about it. You also, when we think about, I'm not going to talk about CBT, but when we think about CBT, CBT has 5 steps. Just quick refresher.
Cognitive behavioural therapy.
Cognitive behavioural therapy. First step, psychoeducation.
Okay.
Second step, symptom control. Third step, cognitive restructuring. Fourth step, exposure.
Yep.
Fifth step, relapse prevention. Most people go to 3 or 4 without doing 1 or 2,
Okay. So how does that relate to?
because the third step, cognitive restructuring, is
Yep.
after you've done psychoeducation and symptom control,
Yep.
you can challenge the idea gently
Okay.
that actually it won't always be this way.
I was like, that's the way you sort of do the catch yourself thinking the wrong thing.
Yeah, you can do it yourself. Beautiful. You can do it with your own thoughts, but you can also help someone else when we're scaffolding support. Once you've done connection, once you've done co-regulation,
Okay.
once you've brought them back down to introduce those
How can you
concepts.
tell your kid is? Are we talking about being worried about the future?
Yeah.
How can you tell?
How do
Well,
you
you're
think?
about to tell us me, aren't you? Yeah. Like how I'm trying to think how it would differentiate it. So I can tell when my kid's in a bad mood, angry. I'm trying to think about agitated.
Yeah, but do you ever see either
Yep.
of the girls agitated about
Yep.
something that's coming up?
I keep saying the word anxious, and you keep saying agitated. I'm just wondering, is there a big like?
No, let's
No,
use
no, no.
anxious.
As I'm not trying to be. No, I'm just trying to say.
It's
am
more
I
you can
missing
see
something?
agitation. It's harder to see anxiety.
I hear it. I hear them
Or
worrying
anxiousness.
about things,
Yeah.
saying things they get worried about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What do you do?
It's tough to hear. What I would intend to do here in the quiet of this stage, not at 8 o'clock at night when the kid's spiralling, would be to connect with them first. Yes, I'm not taking the
Yeah,
mic. I'm
beautiful,
saying, but is that what I meant to do? Like,
I'm being a bit unfair, but I know how
no,
to
no,
write
no.
this. What do you do
Sorry,
before?
I would
What do you do
say,
before
hey,
that? What do
I
you
would do it
before?
worse. I would actually, honestly, I'd be like, mate, it's going to be fine. Like, this isn't a big thing. This isn't a big thing. It's honestly what I'd say. I'd go, this isn't a big thing. Why? I don't see why you're so wound up. Like, it's okay. And we shouldn't talk about this now. Let's talk about it in the morning. That's what I would say.
Okay.
That's what I would. I know. Honestly, I'm just being honest. Like, because you just try and shut it down sometimes.
Just trying to think if the car ride home's long enough to talk about.
I know. What I should do is like
Why don't you go the long
prioritize.
way?
Like I should, try and connect with them better and just like tell
I
me
don't think
about
that's
it.
what you do, mate.
No, I'm not. I mean, I'm
What do you do first? What do you do before you go near the kid?
check that they're physically
Check.
safe. No,
Check yourself.
someone who said that?
Bang.
What was that?
Hold on,
what?
do you want
Check
to
yourself.
jump up?
Check yourself. Sorry. Check myself. Yeah.
You know
But
this,
that's
mate.
the
I
problem,
know you
which
do
is
it.
why then I probably don't do the proper steps because I'm like, oh, I'm agitated that it's going badly.
Yeah. And then
Or
what
I'm
do you do?
boiling up.
Yeah.
You
What
got
do
to check yourself. Yeah, okay, check yourself.
And what are you trying to do when you're checking yourself?
Just see if I can actually do this appropriately. Like, am I in the right headspace to tackle this one, or can I call for backup if I need it?
What if you need to go towards her? You're not in the right headspace, but you can actually think you can do something about it. What do you do?
Try and comfort. No, I don't know. What do you mean?
What do you do yourself?
Take a breath.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like
take a
what
breath.
physically, what works for you? How do you do it? Like everyone has. This is why the universal stuff doesn't work. It's like it's got to be what fits you to do that. Like I can do it a bit because I have an awareness of what's going on in my body, and that's what
Right.
I do. And if
Yeah,
you think
okay.
like that's part of like because you're probably also, if you're really honest, you're probably worried about the future as well
Yeah.
in that moment, aren't you?
Completely.
You're like, I thought this was better, and now we're back here. I don't have
Yeah.
time for this.
Yep.
You know.
Oh, less that I don't have time. I don't want this to lead this next half an hour, this to turn into a big thing. I try and I try and shut it down.
Totally, but you shouldn't. It's very hard to do this when we're completely overwhelmed because
Yeah,
there's a
but I get
privilege
overwhelmed.
component of everything we're talking about. Like
Yeah.
if I would really struggle with my single mum or another single parent sitting there going, hey, hey, check yourself. Like, you know what I mean? They're like, I'm drowning here. But yeah, so if you can do that successfully and get to the point where you're calm,
Yep.
and then think about what is my purpose in going towards this kid. It is not to make them think it's not a big deal or anything like that. It's to, what's the first thing that you do after you connect with them?
Where's that person?
Looking at the audience
No,
again.
no.
So what you have to do is when we think about
Well,
it. So let's talk about.
Ask them what's going on. Ask them what's going on.
Yeah.
No?
Yes. No. That's beautiful because what you're trying
going
to do
to
is
water
once
on
you
the stage
once
here.
you
It's
once you
usually just
open
you and me.
you're beautiful,
bit more
mate. Because
time.
once you've opened up an opportunity to connect and
Yep.
you're with them and they're calm, you can ask them about it.
Yeah.
You know, open questions, low, calm voice,
Yep.
slow the pace of everything
They
down.
catch your calm.
Catch your calm.
Catch your calm. Yep.
So, and it's really, acceptance and commitment therapy is actually more helpful than CBT here. And if you think about it from that perspective, the first thing of acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT, I know you love acronyms, ACT, is accepting the feeling that's going on with you, but then helping them accept, validate, acknowledge whatever they're feeling
Validate their feeling.
instead of
Yep.
shutting it down.
Yep. Yeah,
That's really important, isn't it?
Yeah,
do you
totally,
do that
totally.
much with yourself?
No, with myself?
Yeah.
No.
When you're worried about stuff in the future? So you
Yeah, I
should.
get better at it, getting a lot better at it. No, to be fair, getting a lot, since I was probably 30 odd, yeah.
Yeah. So I was 30 a minute ago, but the
Long minute.
yeah. So I try and work on that, and it's interesting. Like mindfulness has kind of been misappropriated by a lot of people because it's one of those other things that like everyone who's a well-being person is doing.
Gotcha.
But mindfulness is not about trying to understand the experience you're having. It's just being with that experience in the moment,
Yep.
trying to connect with it, acknowledge it, accept it.
Yep.
Then the next thing is, so A, acceptance.
Yep.
C is choose action. Now, the important thing that whether you're helping one of the girls, you're helping yourself, is how do you go through that process genuinely of accepting how you're feeling and then move to a point where you're like, I'm going to do something about it.
Gotcha.
You can't go straight to do something about it. A lot of people get stuck in just a feeling.
Well, you just
now,
come in with tension,
ACT
don't you?
intentionally doesn't have symptom control like
Mm-hmm.
CBT does, but it is a byproduct of being with and accepting and noticing and acknowledging the feelings that it does help you.
Yep.
That's the evidence of it, and then you get to choosing action, and you think about what you're going to do that aligns with your values, and we'll talk a bit more about what that means, and then you think about taking that action.
So you like take a beat and think about it and choose something and then take it. So that's the T.
Yeah, so you help whoever it is or yourself understand that whatever you're feeling is valid. Your anxiety around the future is real and genuine. It comes from a place.
Right. Yep.
And then you think, what can I do about it practically in the next hour, the next week, the next short period of time
Yep.
that will help me feel a bit better about this thing I'm worried about the future. You did this beautifully years ago, mate, when the kids were worried about, like someone wrote in and said, I'm really worried about the first day of school.
Yep.
And you talked about getting to the school when no one's there,
Yeah.
you know, kicking a ball around on the school grounds,
Yep,
like
playing
meeting
on it,
the
yep.
teachers
Being
before
in
the
the
big
space,
day,
yep.
all that stuff. That's taking action about a future anxiety.
Yeah.
That is a valid thing to be worried about.
Yep. Yeah, it is valid to be worried about. Yeah. That's why you can't dismiss it. Yeah.
So you're choosing. As kids get older, we want to give them more and more autonomy over what they choose to take action about that aligns with their values.
If you don't do that first bit, is that where you kind of challenge? You said something really good last week about don't challenge who the kid is. So is that like sort of like that's part of validation? So you don't want to be like
Yeah, you
you're
can't-
wrong, it's fine, because then they're like,
so that's
well,
not
I've got it
accepting and
wrong.
acknowledging that
Yeah,
a feeling is
gotcha.
valid.
Yep,
You also don't choose. You don't choose if you're helping a kid what the action is. You help them choose.
What would that look like?
That's intrinsic motivation.
Okay, how would that?
I can see you're really worried about how big that stage is.
What do you want to do about it?
Totally understand that.
Okay.
That must be really worrying.
Yep.
Because even though you're so good at that, it can be really stressful to feel like that.
Yeah.
I get stressed about stuff too.
Yep.
You know what we could do? Let's think about something that we can do that'll help with that. What do you think? And ideally, we need to be like, well, can we practice at home first? Can we go to that space and just check it out?
Yep.
Let's just dip our toe in. Let's be there. Let's watch other people do it. And let's make sure there's no need for you to put pressure on yourself that you don't have to do it. Let's just see how you feel when we get there. You want to bail? You give me that special signal, that nose scratch. Means you're not up for it. You take the weight. You go, I've got to go. This is my fault, guys. We've got to hit the road.
Yep. It's very good.
But do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's
I'm
how...
just not deliberate enough. You've got to be deliberate about this stuff, don't you? Yep.
Well, it's like anything, mate. You've got to practice it.
Yep.
The famous...
That's not that
time,
hard.
change
What you've
the
just
dog.
said, like, is way better than the other outcome where it just goes. I just go to like, no, it's fine. And
But what do you get worried about in the future?
about my kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
same.
Yep.
Yeah, I talked to my therapist two days ago. Like, I'm
Yeah.
worried the same thing's going to happen.
Yeah, I just don't
Yeah.
want them to have, anxiety, and then I don't want it to bubble up. And the biggest thing is I don't want them to impact the social stuff, because that's the stuff that worries me.
Yeah.
No
So
real
the thing-
reason just to worry. I just want them to get along. I said in the last episode, and someone was like, "Oh no, they've got to have struggles." I'm like, I want my kid to. Frankly, I don't want my kid to have struggles, but they're not going to grow up if they don't have struggles, so they've got to have them. I can accept that, but it's like you don't want them to have like huge setbacks. You just want them to like get through it. Just get through it and come out feeling really good about themselves and all those sorts of things.
I know you know this, but they don't grow through struggle. Just like you
that's
don't-
right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Trauma doesn't make us resilient.
No.
We get through it because of our resilience.
Yes. Yep.
Those are valid feelings, mate.
Thank you.
I
Do you
share
worry
them
about? Do you
too.
worry about the future?
Yeah, but hey. Before we get to me,
Oh, you're doing the. Sorry.
what do you think you could do about it?
Give my kids enough opportunities to feel really good about themselves without too much.
Is there anything you could do with a friend? Had microphones.
No. Yeah. What do you?
Maybe we should practice before this.
Yeah. What?
Well, you've gone on this journey, haven't you? To
Yes.
learn,
No, totally.
to think about how.
Yeah.
That's why you're genuinely here.
Yep.
Because you're genuinely here because of that. So
No,
you are
totally,
choosing
totally.
action that aligns with your values
Yeah,
and your
yeah.
skills,
Yep.
and you're taking action, aren't you?
Yep.
So
yep.
you're a
I
beautiful
wish I'd got
role
a few of the
model.
answers a bit more correct. Can't just turn up and expect it just to wash into you. Just wash it over and be like, but a new topic. This is a new topic. Yep.
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Mate, but that's the thing. You and I are getting better as parents and as people, I think, through this journey.
Totally. Yep. No,
Like,
it makes
we're
me
becoming
makes
a
me
smaller
more.
and smaller part of the PCP community, but
Yeah, we are becoming a small part because it's its own thing.
yeah, but I learn, I wait. I have people come up and talk to me after I do the talks. I'm sure it'll happen today as well, and just tell me things that make me drive home and go, "Wow, I'm a better person because I met that person."
Yeah.
They told me their story. They told me how they got through it.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing. So my big thing, I really worry about. One of the things that is relevant to this movie is I really worry. A little bit of it is because culturally I grew up with a lot of media, and think about the kids today in the world is the environment. Like, I really worry about that. Does anyone else feel like they worry about the environment in here? Yeah, so what we're seeing statistically in our communities and our clinics is a real increase in concerns around the environment.
Yep.
The literature talks about eco-anxiety. I don't know if you've ever heard that term.
No, but it
yeah.
makes sense. Yep.
The interesting thing is a lot of the specialists, so these guys reached out 2 years ago from an amazing group called Healthy Futures. They're all clinicians that do this work and advocacy in this space. And there's also Parents for Climate Action, an amazing Australian group. And they actually recommended that I read this book by Claire O'Rourke, something about Take Action. I'm sorry that I should be remembering that more accurate. Take Action Now or something like that. And it's this beautiful book that we'll talk about where the evidence is. But what we know is that, for example, suicide rates increase in association with climate days, like hot days, extreme weather.
Okay.
We get surges of domestic violence as those days happen, and that's what's happening. Increases in this is acutely causing mental distress in our communities.
Yep.
And it's also, outside of the short-term stuff, we know the generation that's coming up now are worried way more about this than we were.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? They'll be the ones that suffer the consequences of it, and they have a lot of like shared concern. And we know that when we survey kids in Australia, teenagers in Australia, even adults in Australia and all over the world, that there is increasing over each year an amount of people that are really worried about this. You know, so I sit in that space and I find it makes me agitated.
So what do you do about it?
Well, I'll give you an example. A park that's between your and my house.
Yep.
The developers have put townhouses
Yep.
on the opposite side of the road.
Yep.
Overnight, they drilled holes into a 100-year-old gum and poured poison into it, and have killed that tree.
Yep.
It triggers me every single time I go past it.
Go past.
It shaded a playground, a footy field,
Yep.
and the developers wanted a view, so they killed it.
Mm.
That's like this is just give me this one pass on the beautiful boys. That's patriarchy. I'm just going to do it.
Okay.
That developer has just gone, I don't care about anyone else. This property will make me more money if there's a view of the city skyline. So that tree's going. Spoke to council about it, checked it out, doing nothing. Sent them all this research and literature about what you can do to reduce this occurring again and all that stuff. Said, no, we'll be cutting it down. Really agitated. I was really anxious about it. I'm really worried, like, what's that tree won't be there now when my kids play in that playground. That's what I'm worried about. So what I need to do is go, that's a valid feeling. Accept it. And then think about what can I choose that aligns with my values and take action. And I do that through thinking about environmental aspects. And we know that teenagers, especially now, capitalism's struggling a bit because they don't overconsume, they use more green products, they recycle better, all this stuff, and that's a bit of it. One of the amazing things we know is, and this is really important for our kids, is that if you are a bigger part of the environment and actively do things with peers in that space, care for the environment, it improves your mental health.
Okay.
So all of our kids' mental health would improve if they were part of that with their peers in that space, locally based. And that's the action that I try and do. I planted gums because that's why I was like, I have to do something about this, so I'll plant more than that guy's killed.
Okay. I've just checked the time a little bit, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And we have to move to our scene. Sorry.
Let's go to the scene.
I'm not
beautiful.
cutting you off. I got one job.
No, if I'm being 100% honest, the one time I looked at the clock, I was like, oh, we're only 14 minutes in. And I've just realised it's 14 as in 2 p.m.
No, yeah, it's 2 p.m. Yeah, it's 10
I was
to
like,
3.
we're sweet.
Yeah. So we got
I was
it,
like, God, I'm actually not banging on. But
But you've picked a scene for us to look at that's going to be relevant for this topic.
Yeah, so this is a beautiful scene. And what Luck wrote this is we're meant to go through this movie and she can save the world, Lilu. But she's realised how bad the world is, so she thinks, why?
Why? So what is it worth?
So if you think about reverse engineering that for the environment or anything that you're anxious about, it's really hard. Why go on? If I'm really worried about that thing next week at school, why? Do you know what I mean? Where's the motivator? And this scene is right at the end of the movie, and it's kind of this emotional depiction. For those of you who haven't seen it, she's trying to find the energy to save the planet, the universe. And so he is trying to talk her into it. And yeah, let's play the scene.
Let's play the scene.
Please.
Let's go. Lilu, wake up. Wake up. It's time for you to work now.
Protect life. Until death.
No. Lilu, listen to me. Listen. I know you're very tired. I'll take you on a vacation when we're done. I swear, a real vacation, just you and me. But listen to me, if you don't do something right now, we're all gonna die. You understand?
What's the use of saving life when you see what you do with it?
It'll be entering the atmosphere in 40 seconds.
Lilu, you're right. But there are some things, very nice things worth saving, some beautiful things.
Like love.
Yes, love. That's good. That's a good example. Like love. Love is worth saving.
I don't know love. I was built to protect, not to love. So there's no use for me other than this.
No, you're wrong. I need you. Very much.
Why?
Because.
Tell her, Corbin.
Why'd you need me?
Because I love you.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Scanner imaging has confirmed the Dark Planet dead.
The planet seems to have stopped at 62 miles from impact.
Yes! What's wrong with you? What you screaming for? Every 5 minutes there's something, a bomb or something? I'm leaving.
God, I was getting emotional during that. Far out. So it's this, because I see her in that role of the kid who's struggling and worried about the future, and he's trying to convince her, isn't he?
Yep.
Like he's trying to change her, and so it's this beautiful example of how we get caught with kids, and how do we, like he says, how do we find the reasons? How do we help them find the reasons that after we've done all the steps, challenge their thinking that everything's always going to be this way, and find the small stuff to keep going for, the small behaviours and activities we can move towards and do and try out to do that. And it's a beautiful kind of thing about it. And I think that movie is just the movie's so amazing because it does so many things that are future forward, that are positive. Like, I don't know if you remember the opera scene where she sings. That's impossible to sing.
Yeah.
So an amazing opera singer sung it. It's an opera from a famous opera about a woman who's just killed her husband, I think. And she's going through this emotional turmoil, but they changed it by editing so that you actually can't sing it.
Yeah.
You can't go from those high notes to those high notes because we've evolved. We've become better. We now have the ability to do things we can't do now. And that will happen with the things that we're worried about, whether it's the environment or something else. How do we each give each other and our kids the opportunities to take action in the things that align with their values that can help alleviate some of the things that we're anxious about?
Yeah. And so we focus on that. So act. So acceptance.
Yep.
Choosing
an action that aligns with your values.
Choosing action that aligns with values. And then actually taking action.
Yeah.
That's the key.
So we will now ask our audience that listens to us to send in examples, reflections, tips and things like that about that. We want to hear stories about how you've found those actions that you can take that alleviate. How do you connect with your kids? Reflecting back on our own childhood and the anxieties that we had to live with. I'm always overshare, but that was a childhood that I lived with, worried about a lot of stuff in the future. I kind of constantly sat with that, and that's a lot of my dysfunctional day-to-day stuff now is because of that, because it's still in us, and there'll be a lot of people that listen that are like that. So it'll be really beautiful to have some reflections, and then we'll go deeper in how do you actually address some of the issues that people are finding.
Yep. So we want tips and suggestions from people based on this topic, but then we also want complex questions as well, long questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
And reflections.
Reflections. And so you can send these through to popcultureparenting@gmail.com or hit us up via Instagram, which is popcultureparenting. Leave your questions in there. And just make sure you're following us to get onto the polls. You see those come through a lot more.
Yeah, because we'll send the polls through.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
I thought we had hours left.
No, we didn't, but we want to give everyone enough time for Q&A.
Beautiful.
All right. Yeah, so maybe we'll wrap
thanks,
it
mate.
there.
It's great to be on stage with you.
It's good to be back,
Hey, don't let your mother smell that beer on your breath. She'll take it out on me.
I don't want to see you again for the rest of my whole life. And I don't want to see anybody else either.
Who is your dad?
Just use your best judgment. We trust you.